I'm here with Jason Brown, director, actor, special effects artist, editor, filmmaker. Just to start off with by saying a huge thank you for joining me in this interview, Jason. I really appreciate it. Oh, that's okay. I've gone back over your films, but I think if we start off with Ghosttrack, I'm really interested in Ghosttrack. I've got loads of questions about Ghosttrack, so I hope you'll humour me.
Cool.
It's got so many slasher elements. I love slasher films. Was it a dream of yours to make a slasher?
Yeah, it would have been set in the 80s, but we just didn't have the budget. So what we did is do a disco, an 80s disco, so we could kind of like dress the characters like in 80s style clothes, but obviously in modern day. So, but yeah, it's definitely got throwbacks. I mean, throughout the film, the junkyard at the beginning is like a nod to the Nightmare on Elm Street films, Children of the Corn. I think there's a bit of Scream thrown in there. Friday 13th. Yeah, there's loads of little Easter eggs, little nods through the film.
We can tell that you're from watching it. You can see that you're a lover of horror and a student of horror. Does that tie in with your kind of love of practical effects as well? Because I know that you do a lot of the practical effects yourself.
Yeah, practical effects is something I did learning over the years, because I did it at college and on stage plays. Because originally I wanted to get into like acting. But I was just having a bit more success with filmmaking on the other side of the camera, so I did that instead, Matt. Because I didn't really have the money to really do a lot of the like practical effects. A lot of the stuff's digital as well, digital blood and stuff. And that's something I got really passionate about, doing visual effects and trying to push that for low budget films as well.
So that really is something that you've kind of self-taught.
Everything's self-taught. I think I did one training course in Nottingham, which it's gone now, but at the time it were intermediate in film. One time in the early 2000s, Nottingham were quite booming for independent films. It still has a little community now for independent films, but you actually had places you could go. You had intermediate film, and there were people like Shane Meadows using that as well. And when you were working on films and stuff there that you were using their equipment, you could see Shane Meadows walking by. He was using the equipment to, cut films like Dead Man's Shoes together and things like that. So, but it's kind of now. So
that's really interesting, because literally my next question was is there a Shane Meadows influence? Because I noticed with the Maurice character, some of the visuals, some of the clothing.
Yeah.
So is that something that influenced you? Is because I think Dead Man's Shoes is an absolute masterpiece.
Oh yeah, Well, in the Midlands, that's classed as one of the best British films ever made.
I would agree.
Really massive cult following, and yeah, definitely Shane Meadows was someone. When I was doing short films, and there were a competition called In the Frame, and it was run by Carlton Television at the time, and that's gone now as well. And Shane Meadows started at that same film festival that I managed to get a runner-up place in. And he was there, and he passed me an award. I had a little conversation with him, and they were working on Dead Man's Shoes at the time. But yeah, it's just a shame. Like there were also an office, EM Media. If you look at back of, is it Eden? Yeah, Eden Lake. They helped fund Eden Lake.
Right. Oh wow.
That's as well now. So there's nowhere for like. It's hard for an independent filmmaker like me, because we're just pretty much in the middle of Nottingham's the place to go. But there's nothing there now for it. It's like the funding's gone for it.
It seems like a common theme that about the sort of how the avenues of being able to get funding to make a film in Britain, and the challenges is something I'm hearing a lot. And from a fan's point of view, that's really frustrating, because I'll watch a movie like one of yours, and I'll think, oh, that's great, that British person has got that film made on a low budget and been able to, but I think a lot of the time it's through money being brought in from the US, or sort of you seeking those people out to try and help out from outside of the UK.
It's private investment. People saying, oh, I want to make this film, and just helping with money, and then me using a bit of my money as well. There's just no other way to do it. Through a BFI scheme, which I'll be honest, I'm just no good at breaking a budget down. So, I mean, I'm learning more the
Yeah.
business side of things. But yeah, I couldn't really apply for something like that.
And it does kind of sound like certainly horror filmmakers have to kind of almost sell the film as anything but horror in order to get that, which is strange because horror is on the rise in terms of fandom. You know, I'm sure
Definitely,
you're
yeah.
I'm sure you're right in the middle of it, and I'm sure you see lots and lots of people who are, you know, either
Yeah.
different events or just seeking out your films to watch with their friends. The things that you're making, you can see there's a real love of horror in there, like I said before. If I kind of ask you a little bit more about the creative side of it, in terms of things like the music, I know you work alongside, or you have worked along Steve Smith, isn't it, with the music?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, Maurice has his own kind of theme, which kind of reminded me a bit of Dry. Are your influences like are your influences right at your fingertips, or are you just thinking this song fits this character?
That synth, that 80s synth, we wanted to put that in there, and definitely you've got it with The Drive. I'm a massive fan of that film. A little bit of influence from that, and then Stranger Things has that kind of vibe to it as
Yes.
well. So I'm a big fan of Stranger Things, so I kind of like wanted that because it makes me feel something when I heard the synth.
You can kind of identify a character with a certain theme. I think it
Yeah,
works really well across all slashers, but in horror in general. Because I know when I was watching Dark Veil, and that has a more
gothic
gothic.
feel to it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
a completely different film
Mm,
to Ghosttrack. Slow burn, and the problem with the slow burn that I found, because Dark Veil been released to like really mixed reviews, the slow burn, people don't seem to have patience for it anymore. It don't, I love slow burn films,
mm.
but it's just, they don't seem to be as bothered about that anymore. So
Yeah, I guess we're like a generation away from Hammer
yeah,
and sort of your gothic, or even like a bit further back, your sort of the Corman, Edgar Allan Poe films.
yeah,
So I think things are cyclical, aren't they? So I imagine people will probably start really. There'll be one or two films that come out that are absolute blockbusters that are in that kind of style, and then people
yeah,
will come back and reappraise. So I'm really interested. I'm going to keep pushing with Maurice a little bit as a character because
yeah,
I believe that Maurice was kind of not a real character in the sense of did everything that Maurice did in the film, but Maurice was a fictional character that was used as like a cautionary tale to like tell you not to do dangerous things essentially as a child, keep you safe. Is that right? Or
it's an
am
urban
I
legend. I think crazy enough. I mean, when we were kids, it was a thing. Don't go to the train lines on Morris will get you. But I do believe it was because we live so close to train lines. They didn't want young kids going up onto lines, so they had to create like some sort of scare factor there. They made this like ghost story up, saying, "Oh, Morris will
Oh,
get you if you go on train lines," and the idea stemmed from there. So
no way.
it's
That's
pretty
so
pretty dark, to be fair. There's
it is. I
parents
mean,
telling the kids, making this story up. So
it reminds me a bit of the old adverts that they used to show you in school to warn you
yeah,
from doing things, you know, going near power lines and what have you. And they were
yeah,
terrifying, absolutely terrifying. I think they
oh yeah,
maybe influence a lot of people's interest in horror.
yeah. I'm old enough to remember that. Yeah,
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 well, I wasn't going to say because I wasn't sure whether I was just aging myself. We've talked a little bit about the music and we've talked a little bit about the character. You have to have a real collaborative relationship because you're working, like you said, working on a low budget. You know, there's actors that I've seen in a few of your films. There's names that crop up again and again. How do you kind of cultivate a group of people to help you out with this? Because I imagine a lot of it is in goodwill and they're into the same films that you're into.
yeah, yeah. I mean, most people work for free. We paid expenses for petrol and things like that. And yeah, I've just with Katie and Darren, I've just built up a really good relationship, and then I've brought them back onto the next film. Because I do believe a decent amount of chemistry between them, and that's quite hard to get between actors.
Yes.
We are quite close friends, especially Darren. He lives like literally 10 minutes away from me. Tom in Dark Vale, and then he returned for Maurice. He's just one of them people that doesn't complain. He just comes and just loves it so much, whether I'm paying him any money or not. So,
Well,
uh,
that's a real compliment for your
yeah,
work that people want to keep getting involved.
I think if I try and make it as fun as possible while they're doing it, and it doesn't feel like work, they almost give a natural performance as well, like acting wise, you know, trying to make it more grounded, like Sigourney Weaver's. I think she's a perfect example of that. And Alien. When
Yes.
the dinner table, it's just banter. It's natural. But I'm always trying to capture that, what Ridley Scott did in that original Alien film.
Right.
You know,
That's
the
interesting.
naturalness of the actors, the grounded actors, and it'll help my special effects and whatever I'm doing more believable if I can make the characters believable and
Yeah.
grounded. That's what I'm trying to do.
That's it. No, that comes across. I get that, because that's the
Yeah.
that's the key scene, or one of the key scenes really in Alien, isn't it? When you learn about each of those characters, their
Yeah.
personalities, where some of the banter between them is a little bit like sexist, or one of them is only really interested in the money side of things. There's a
Yeah.
lot going on. You're learning that through the way they interact, and
Yeah.
it's really hard to cultivate that. But yeah, I can think of scenes, certainly in ghosttrack, where that influence is very clear. It's funny that you've highlighted a scene that really doesn't really cost very much, does it? Sitting around and discussing. Obviously, all the effects and everything costs lots of money, but
Yeah.
the interactions between people, that's what grounds it.
Yeah. And I think it helps sell my, you know, if an effect's weaker because of money or whatever, that the actors help sell, you know, it makes that more believable.
We talked right at the beginning about being low budget films. If somebody was to come up to you wanting to make a low budget film, wanting to do the same, to follow the same path, what do you wish somebody would have said to you? What sort of, you must remember to do this, that would help them along the way? Is there something that you kind of wish somebody had pointed you towards, or you've had to find out the hard way?
I think it's one of them situations where I probably just have to find out the hard way and just do it. I think Ghost Track, a lot of people think that's my first feature debut film. It's not. We've seen Dark Veil, and then there was another movie, A Date with Ghosts, before that, which is another small feature film length still, but really, really low budget. And I was just making that to just see if I could make a feature film, because I'd already done a bunch of shorts, and I want to try and make a feature film. But that I use that as a learning curve. You know, I think doing that movie has took me to a place where no one else can kind of follow, because I've learned from that, and you know, it's made me a better filmmaker doing that. But it's taken me to a place where I'm starting to get, I think, better.
Well, you're making those kind of, for want of a better, you're making those steps and those leaps
Yeah,
in what you're doing, but you're doing it in front of everybody, because you're putting you're a creator and you're creative, and you're putting those things out there, which is really brave, because not many people, most people can get to learn their job without it being public.
yeah. And I just feel like that first film got distributed. It's like it got released, so it's like, oh, it's
Well,
out
which is a task in itself. You know, there's so many people who haven't been able to do that once. And is it a case of you start with those short films, you learn little bits on that, and it is literally like you just build up and build up. A short film's a really important step.
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, I think short films can be just as important as doing a feature, but I think if you do a feature, you're going to really learn a lot. A lot quicker than you would do a short movie. But I mean, you get people that do short films, and then they'll get £1 million to do a feature, which is, I've never been in that position where I've got I've done
maybe now
who's going to give me money to do another one? So same situation with Dark. Well, I've done one feature. Let's get another private investor to give me a bit more, just to do another really low budget feature film. And just work
that budget versus or that creative, all the creative things you have to do, and balancing that on, it all costs money. It is, and funding, and like you say, it's a completely different skill, isn't it? And it all falls at your door. So, like, to look through your IMDb and see year after year you're producing these films, you're creating these films. which have an audience and people are enjoying them, and you're trying out different things. Because no two films back to back are the same. You're not doing, say, 6 films that all follow Maurice.
None of the films are the same. They're all very different, which surprises me as well, to be fair, that I've managed to do something different every time. So
would you revisit any of the themes from other films? Like, for example, would you do like a film where Maurice becomes almost like a franchise kind of character? Or is that something that you just get bored and want to do something different?
I love that, definitely. I mean, I think if Maurice had the budget, I mean, it's just the money, that side of things, where it really struggles. I think if it had the budget, I think it would have really paid off. I mean, it's still paid off. I mean, I'll tell you, Matt, if the first 2 movies I did, no, we didn't earn any money, nothing. It's only since ghosttrack's come along I've been paid as a filmmaker. I'm actually getting money as a filmmaker. This is the first time.
You've worked really, really hard to make that happen. Then because I'm sure there's opportunities to just go, this is not working, and then ghosttrack has proved that it does. If we're talking about money as a, which obviously we all need money to live, but if we're talking about money in the sense of equaling a successful film, which obviously there's an artistic value to everything that you've done, regardless of that. But what that blows my mind, really, the fact that this film is the one that's kind of, the turning point. And now I imagine you're really excited about.
Like, I was so excited when I said, we've actually gone into profit with this film. It's made money. I've been paid a check. It's like, it's crazy.
Well, if you think there are multi-million-pound films being made that do not make a profit, that that lose money, and I think it's just that disparity, and certainly in Britain it's even harder.
Definitely,
Yes. So the fact that you've shown that longevity can only be positive for the future, can't it? It can only kind of fire you up.
I think it's more passion than anything else with the filmmaking anyway.
Yes.
I just love doing it. I think the reason I'm getting these these small budget features made is because I'm not relying on a lot of people. I'm doing the visual effects myself, the editing. I think as a filmmaker, I love all aspects of filmmaking, which is being a DP, lighting. I might not be the best at everything, but my ultimate goal is trying to get at least good at everything. Almost be like a one-man band in a way. I have got pockets of people helping. There's always someone helping with money. There's always Sadie, who I used to go to college with. She's done my makeup and that on the new film, and she found the locations. There's always someone.
What do you enjoy about making a film? I know this because obviously we've talked about a lot of the challenges, and I know you've talked about your love of film. But actually, as a filmmaker, what is it that you enjoy about it? How do you get the buzz from doing that?
I think post-production editing's my favorite part. Putting it together, and I find writing. I think a lot of people find writing a struggle. That's difficult, and then just the whole process of making a movie. But I think post-production is probably my favourite part, is because that's when you can see it coming together and it's working in places. On set, when you get a shot that's like one of them shots, you're like, oh, that's amazing. That worked, Sometimes you get them shots that's an explosion or blood or something flies the right way, It's, oh, that's amazing, we've got it. So,
that sounds amazing. That sounds really cool, yeah.
One of my favourite things. I really, really like colour grading.
There's definitely a color palette in each of your film that is, that's very clear. Like we said, they are all very different films, but they also look very different as well, don't they?
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, I mean, what I was trying to do with ghosttrack is I was trying to disguise it and overexpose it a little bit and give it that washed up. Because we didn't have the money to make it look, like an Hollywood production, Blumhouse film or anything like that. So I was trying to hide behind that, make it look like it's kind of a beat up 80s overexposed piece of footage in a way, whether that comes across, I don't know.
Yeah, well, that actually reminded me a little bit of parts of Censor, where Censor's very drawn, the colours are very, drawn out. and that's obviously like an 80s set film. And I kind of get the similarities with certainly some of the color palette with ghosttrack.
So that's a really good film.
I'm a bit split on the film. I love it. I do love it. The end I'm not a massive fan of, but the 90% of the film I think is fantastic. I like picking up and seeing, like we said before when you talked about the influence of Dead Man's Shoes, and that's there in your film. And it's great that you can have influences. It must be incredibly hard for everybody in Britain to make a film. The more I'm doing these interviews, the more I realize that horror is probably the hardest genre to get a film made in.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I mean, I think it's one of the most fun as well, though, to do.
Reward.
It is the hardest, but I think it's one of the, like, you know, I think a lot of people choose horror as well because they're passionate about it. It's the thing that makes money, but for some reason in Britain they're not really clicking onto it. You know, the bigger leagues. You know, I'm not sure why, but in America, look at what's happening with Smile and movies like that. They're making tons of money. Barbarian, you know, it's smash hits. Terrifying 2, smash hit. It's crazy.
I mean, the fact that films like Terrifier are getting in like cinema releases, you know, there's not many other ways an indie film in America is going to get that sort of level of publicity because horror is so highly regarded. Whereas it is trickier here, isn't it? It is trickier to maybe. I think I've said this before in other interviews, but there is a kind of snobbishness around horror. But the fans don't see it that well. The people who watch the films who actually matter, just regular fans like myself who have got no kind of you know, we don't work for big production companies or anything. We just want to watch a really cool British horror film, and if it's on at the cinema, people will go and watch it. You know, and again, like you say,
Film 4 used to take a lot of risks. I mean, I don't know, they take risks, don't they, with them kind of films? I mean, Sensor's a film 4. Is it BFI as well? But I know it has film 4 attached to it.
I believe, and I've been told that that sometimes when it comes to the funding with BFI, it's kind of after the film's been made and kind of more in promotion and more in kind of marketing, things like that. So that's kind of an interesting. That's kind of an interesting thing to consider, really, isn't it? Because you're also having to market your films and make those trailers and cut those and promote those to people. And I was going to ask you because the trailer for your next film, there's still some horror in there, but there's some sci-fi. So Creek Encounters, tell me a little bit about Creek Encounters. Obviously, I don't want you to tell me the whole story and give you any spoilers. But
it's kind of like it's a little bit like The Faculty. Robert Rodriguez is The Faculty.
Awesome.
But obviously trying to do something different as well, and it's kind of another nod to classics like The Thing, the classic sci-fi movies, but also not trying to copy everything and then just try and create something new as well. And that's probably one of the hardest films I've ever had to make. To be fair, we're in post-production now, but it's just difficult. You know, I mean, we had a lot of young cast in it as well. So there were 2 ways we could have gone there. We could have cast teenagers and just said, oh yeah, they're young. And then people like, well, no, they're not school kids, you know. So it was kind of like, well, let's just get a younger cast members. And you've got to deal with licenses and stuff. But we've all become like this little family, you know. It's amazing, you know. We just had a little rap party and stuff. So yeah, it's incredible. But it's been a difficult film. Like I said, I did have someone. It wasn't me all the time. I actually had Sadie assistant directing and helping with things, and then the actors would move lights. You know, I double the cast up as crew members, and then they dealt with things as well. So yeah, it was a little bit more out, but it was an extremely difficult film to make. You know, visually, it's challenging visual effects wise as well because there's a giant spider in it. So I would kind of push that. But apparently, creature features and things like that sell really well for distribution. So I've already been approached by 3 people. Someone quite high up as well, which surprised me. via email. They want to see a screener when it's finished. So I'm
that's
pretty much
fantastic.
guaranteed that's going to come out as well, a release.
I'm really looking forward to that. I mean, I really enjoyed the presentation of the trailer and the idea behind it. I'm really interested in that because you've mentioned obviously the high school element, the kind of like the faculty, which I suppose somebody said the faculty described it as, I think, the Breakfast Club, but instead of alienation, aliens, or cross with like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and then the Thing as well. So
and then,
that sounds so interesting.
Yeah, brief encounters of the third kind as well. It's a mix of everything, But I don't want to be copying everyone else. I want to try and just do, try and create something new. I know everything's done now, but always try and do something different as well.
Well, that's it. I think that your films come across like that. They don't come off as, for want of a better phrase, like knockoffs of any other film. I can see your influences, but I wouldn't say that, it's just like that, which must make you feel really proud because it's a unique selling point. Like you say, people are reaching out about Creek Encounters already.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's amazing the attention that's got, like, just from that trailer, and then people like emailing me about a screener and possibly wanting to distribute. It's amazing, absolutely amazing.
Well, I really hope people check it out when it, finally reaches us and we can see it. And the same, to go back and explore all your films, because ultimately we want to have fun watching a film, and you definitely have fun watching your films. You talk very openly and, about the things that were challenging, but like from a viewer's point of view, we're watching these and just enjoying them at face value. And, I watched Ghosttrack again before the interview a couple of days ago. One thing that struck me was the creative use of locations. So, like, how do you do that with such a low budget? I know you said you have some help with that as well, but just talk me through the process of locations on a film like Ghosttrack, for example.
Yeah, so the junkyard, we know the guy who owns it. So we said, Pete, can we film it? Yeah, if you give me £50. It's £50. This is like shoot in there as long as you want for £50. But originally that opening scene was going to be shot at night, but we just didn't have the money, for the lights to light it properly. So we decided to shoot it in the day. And then there's a place called Pleasant Vale that's got this water tunnel that's a bit like the It film. Yeah, I don't know if you noticed that there were kind of like little nods to it as well. Yes. And the water tunnel. So we said, we've got to shoot in there. So we climbed over this fence. I think we had to knock loads of nettles and everything down to get to this water tunnel. So no one's going in there. No one's been in there for,
wow.
We don't know if anyone's ever been in there. So we just knocked all these bushes and everything down to get to it and got the actors to climb into this water tunnel.
I didn't even realize that we had those sort of things in the UK. I thought those big, massive water tunnels were like, like in The Fugitive or something. When I saw it, I was like, how's he found that?
Well, farmers, farmerlands and things like that. Yeah, it's crazy. Like, the weirdest thing is that the place where we shot Pleasant Vale is like that. We actually shot Dark Vale down there as well in the same place. And strangely enough, that's apparently haunted by a white lady ghost. So that idea came from that as well. So
that's either fantastic as a horror filmmaker or absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
During Ghosttrack, a familiar face popped up in Halloween 5's Tamara Glynn. That must have been a thrill for you as a fan of horror, as a fan of the slasher genre. How did that?
Definitely. That were amazing that we actually managed to cast someone that's known. It still blows my mind now. The story goes, she runs a Hot Springs Horror Film Festival in America.
Right.
Dark Vale got into Hot Springs Horror Film Festival. She saw it and kind of became aware of me. So I added her on Facebook. And she added me back because she knew I'd done Dark Vale and gone to a festival that she was running. I don't know if she's doing it now at the time, but at the time she was running this festival. And I says, do you want to be in my next film? Just play a small role. And she said, yeah. that's fine, I'll do it. And that, I was just like, oh my God, she's just agreed to do it. I don't have to go through an agent or anything. So, and me and Tamara's friends, now we chatted the other night on Zoom. So, about another film that she potentially going to come along and be part of. So,
it's a good thing you asked.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, if you don't ask, you don't get, do you? And
yeah,
that's really, really nice to hear. It's amazing, isn't it? How many things are kind of like not so much happy accidents, but just kind of just asking someone, just going, "Can you do this?" And if they say no, it's fine, but there's a possibility they might say yes.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, Tam's involved with the Terrifier movie as well. Yeah, she's in that. She plays a little role in that as well. So they were starting at the same festival, the Hot Springs Horror Film Festival. I think they were screening the. Is it All Hallows Eve when Art McLaren first appeared? I think it did.
There's a few, isn't there?
And I think it led to something happened there.
And that's an example, I suppose, of an independent film in the US having those avenues to kind of go down.
Yeah.
And it's quite a unique thing for it to be so known and so popular over here as well, in that sense, because from an indie film point of view, I mean, wow, I even had my picture taken with art last year at a convention. So it's become quite.
I love conventions and things like that. I mean, Tam's, that's pretty much like her main income to do them. Signing autographs and going to them events and conventions and stuff. It's a big thing, massively big. So
yeah, like linking up your sort of era of films with the films that influenced them through some of those people that were either in them or created them. It's a nice synergy, and it gives people little reference points as well. I saw her and I was like, yeah, this is a filmmaker that loves slasher films.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. That was definitely to definitely have. There's been a few people when we've been making these films. I've tried to get Danny Trejo involved, Corey Feldman. I spoke to his agent at one point, so I was always trying to, because I believe it's one of them things. I'm trying to meet the film industry halfway by trying to cast someone that's kind of known and just not be a selfish filmmaker in a way, if that makes any sense. Just don't be selfish, try and meet the film industry halfway, get a name in it, try and do a professional trailer, trying to do a professional movie poster. So I'm always trying to push it, and even though I've only got £2 to rub together, I'm still always trying to push it. Just say, look, if I want to take this serious, I've got to try and meet them halfway, and try and cast some sort of known actor.
And ultimately, I think that's a way of helping the film make money, isn't it? And in order to make more films, there has to be an element of being commercial. And I think I can see that you've tread that line where, like you say, you're being highly original with your films, but there's these little touchstones and little references to things that you love. And I think people will more and more as you do those, people respond to that more than a straight out homage where it's just exactly the same beat for beat as of a film you've already seen. Because even the way you use outdoor spaces, it's not like a camp slasher, that you use the spaces very differently. I thought the film really came together with the outdoor scenes.
Yeah,
I imagine there's real challenges with doing things outdoors though as well.
Yeah, well, not in Plesley Vale, because every now and again you just see someone walking by with a dog and they'll be like, "Hello," some girl laid in a cornfield covered in blood. But yeah, because it was like, quite out of the way. It was never see odd person walking by. I was trying to just capture that summer feeling as well. It was so much fun. Creek and Crackers were tough, but ghosttrack was a lot of fun to make.
Yeah. Do you think that's because you're challenging yourself more as you go on to your next film to do more and to do better and to learn from the things before, that you're putting yourself under a lot more pressure?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, definitely. I think that just as challenges the computer effects on Creek, doing the spider, because I don't want it to come across as. I mean, it's never going to look absolutely amazing, but I was trying to really push the spider and do less is more with it as well. But just trying to make it look like a high quality CGI spider. A lot of people say, "Well, why aren't you doing it practical?" But it's like I can't make a practical spider climb up wall and jump up and do these crazy things, so in the shadows, like creeping out the shadows and things. So I'm definitely doing the less is more.
I'm really excited to see where the next film goes, the film after that, because obviously you've kind of, and thank you for doing it. You've kind of taught me through the steps along the way and the challenges. I think a lot of people would just be not necessarily as open about the improvements that they've made, because I think sometimes ego gets in the way. I was like, I've always been amazing at everything, that kind of thing. But to sort of say, I've learned this as I've gone, I've got better at my trade, and people are already buying, watching and enjoying your films now. So as this continues, I'm really excited to see where you go next. Do you have things in your mind, like subgenres, ideas? Are you always making notes of things you want to do next?
3 different ideas, projects that I'm thinking about doing. Definitely, there's definitely going to be another film, 100%, because I think we have funding as such. I do believe that there's going to be some sort of funding in place for the next one, which will be bigger, much bigger than they've ever had before. So fingers crossed everything goes well with that. And I mean, the problem is with promoting yourself on Twitter as well, you can come across quite arrogant. But what else, when you're trying to like share your movie and stuff, say, "Oh, look at this is this we've got a distribution," but there's no other way to do it. It's like, I don't want to come across as arrogant, but
I think
promote yourself. It's a fine line to walk. It's difficult.
But I think ultimately as well, the fact that you're even saying that, it means that you're not being arrogant, and you're not the fact that you even, because the people who are, they don't think of things like that. They just do it. I would say, I have not made your film, so I can say this. I think people should go back and watch your films to see that journey, to enjoy each of them, and then watch Creek Encounters, and then see what comes next with Jason Brown, because it's going to be.
Thanks, I appreciate that. For pages and like Creek Encounters and ghosttrack, this Facebook page is set up. Where news about the film gets posted, and things like that. There's actually a figure. I don't know if you've seen it. There's a guy in America created the Maurice figure, like a NECA.
Oh wow!
Film. There's actually
that's cool.
I'll send you a picture of it to you.
That would be great. Yeah, that would be really good to see.
Made a picture of Maurice, and I'm lucky enough to get actually a physical release in this day and age of the films as well. So
to have that,
DVD, but it's still a physical release.
But I mean, to be honest, I've started going back, and if I want to buy something, I'm not necessarily buying like a big expensive boutique DVD, Blu-ray. I'm buying a DVD because it's cheaper, it's to hand, I've got it, I own it. It's a balance, isn't it? I love physical media. But I have scaled down my collection, which I know a lot of people they have every single DVD that they've ever bought and would never part with any of them. Do you? So speaking of having your own film on DVD, do you have like? Are you a collector? Are you kind of into?
Oh yeah, I collect NECA figures and everything. I love all horror NECA figures and pop figures.
Fantastic.
I've got on the shelf here. I've got the Nun. I've got Ghostface. I've got Maurice that stood at the side of the Nun. I love collecting pop figures. Love all that kind of thing. Absolutely.
Well, that's how it starts, isn't it? Though a fan making a figure of one of your characters, because I think a lot of them, when figures haven't been made, fans make them anyway, and then people see there's a demand, and then you get limited release ones, and then they get bigger and bigger. So You know, I'd love to get a Maurice figure at some point. That'd be
Well,
amazing,
I'll
man.
speak to. I'll get one sorted out for you. I'll speak to Derek and get one sorted out.
Oh wow! That wasn't a hint. I've covered all the questions that I wanted to ask, but I just wanted to say a huge thank you, really, for being so open about the process of making a film, because I think other people can then believe that it can be done. I think it needs to be more of something that people can actually see as a tangible career and a tangible. It might not be easy, but they can do it. And I think that the more they hear people's stories like yours, the more inspiring that is. I'm really excited to see Creek Encounters and beyond. And hopefully in the future, when you do something else, I can interview you again and we can kind of talk about
definitely
the next thing.
I'll be there, mate. Definitely.
Oh, thank you. It's lovely to speak to you. Lovely to get to know you as well.
Yeah. Just one more thing. I think I think everyone gets inspired to be a filmmaker by seeing a certain film, and just let you know that I think when I did watch the slashers and in my early teens and that, but I think the Blair Witch Project was a movie that showed filmmakers, for me, that you could do a film, and that was the spark that you could get a camcorder and even though my stuff's not really found footage, it showed me that you could make a movie for cheap, and it could reach a wide audience. So
like the possibility.
Yeah.
It's really important that people, especially, I think I'm from working class background, and
same.
And I think that sometimes people from working class background can be excluded from the film industry. And it's really great when you see people being successful and getting things done through, really, for one of a better phrase, just through elbow grease and passion and really enjoying what they do, and a love, and in this case, a love of horror. So no, thanks, Jason. Thanks for that. And
no worries. I think you have to have a reasonable amount of unreasonability to even become a filmmaker if you're from a working class place. It's just such a reach, but I think perseverance is key, really, to get somewhere.
And that's something that you've shown, and congratulations on that. Congratulations on all your success. I can't imagine how cool it would be to know that there's DVDs of my film in a shop in America, or being on Amazon or whatever. That must feel amazing. So no, congratulations on that. And I implore people to go and check out your films. All right, mate. Take care.
Take care, mate. Thank you.
Nice. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.